Hello, data fans. Dr. Mueller here today. Wanted to make a supplementary video. Many of you have watched the Geomapping zip codes. That video was about how to take, in the simplest form, to collect zip codes and country codes. That's important on a global basis. To collect those in a survey instrument and then extract and import the zip codes into Google My Maps. I've checked many of the geomapping tools in Google My Maps. Again, it's free. I love that for students because there's no cost to use, and it seems to be one of the most simplest tools to really come away with a great data representation. I love to geomap data points, geographic data points with zip and country codes, because it's so interesting as part of a presentation. If you're doing research, presenting research, possibly doing marketing, showing where your data originated from, it's a great way to engage the decision makers, engage the audience, and tell a story. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit more about something I often talk to my students, is how to manipulate and set up the graphic data map that comes out of Google My Maps to give the best opportunity for that number one big power presentation. Okay, so when you look at Google My Maps, this is some data I've loaded from a past research project on cancel culture. You'll see something that looks like this, sort of global in sense, and that's great. But, you'll see the clustered data around the United States. A lot from the, southeast was the heavy concentration, then up here into the east and north, and some out to the west and the west coast. Okay. If you look over here, though, we also have some Germany, France, United Kingdom, Spain. We have a couple outlier data points. Okay. And then another thing to consider is also when you blow up the map, you might want to represent to a client, let's say you have a really big cluster of data, in this sense, out of the Raleigh-Durham area, okay? So you might want to demonstrate to the client, look, here's an overall view of the data, but I've also got some outliers in other countries, and I've got this, concentration of data in the Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina area over here. For instance, in some research, you may want to someday isolate the data from one specific market area, filter and isolate for that data, easy to do using, the zip codes you've achieved in that survey instrument, and do a research project explicit, exclusive to a certain market area. Okay. All fun, always, great things to do, but the fun of it really is to how do you visually represent that to a client or an audience, right? So here's what I'd suggest, again, when you see your Google My Maps and it first comes to you, at least when I open it, I usually see something that might look like this, sort of a global view. And again, the first thing I like to do is blow this up, just increase the size until I get to what I believe would be a good representative study. I'm going to bring this down here in the United States, right? And the bigger you bring it up, the better the data is going to look, the data points. So if I bring it up, let's say even about this big here, look at that. I then just use a simple snipping tool, okay? Apple, Mac, or a PC snipping tool. And I would go ahead and grab up a section like that. So see here now, this would be my major image, and I'm going to show you in a second where I drop all this in, okay? This would be the predominant image. This is like my canvas that I'm going to use, and I'm going to drop this into, what I use is simply Google Slides or, Microsoft PowerPoint. Easy way to create this image, okay? So that would be image number one. I'll drop that in and size that up to take up the space of the entire slide, okay? Then I want to go back in here and I'm going to say, well, let's take a look at those outliers, okay? Remember, we had those over here. Well, then I'll enlarge to the size where I've really got some good detail on the data points within, that larger area, that international area. And once again, I'm going to click my snipping tool, right? And I'm going to go new, and then I'm going to just go ahead and do this. Okay. So I'm going to grab that up. Matter of fact, let's do that one more time, because if you see, I've got a data point up here in Germany. I don't know if I fully captured or not on that first time. So I would go something like this and grab this. Now I've got data points that are respective to specifically my international data points. Okay, so I've got those, and I'm going to carry that, copy and paste that over into the Google slide also. Okay, and then the last thing, and I mentioned this earlier, is going back up in here and, you know, grabbing up what would be the Raleigh-Durham area. Okay, so we've got that. Let's see what's here. You know, and again, it depends what you want to do. I mean, here's a really nice, representative here of what would be, Raleigh-Durham. And maybe I'd grab that up, something like that. Okay. So do you see what I've done here? I've got the big inset, which is the real national United States view. And then I've got some different insets. Here's what it would look like. If I go ahead and pull this together, it's going to be more about setting it up here. Now, I've already dropped in what would be the ID here. I did a little graphic I built on it, which I'm going to bring in and also put in for the thumbnail, right? I actually built this into a thumbnail, but the presentation I think you would use to show your audience or, VIP decision maker is this. You've got the big US version here. I tried to take and drop my insets in where there is not so much population of data, but you're talking, right? You're telling a story with this graphic image. So you're talking about the major data distribution into the north and the southeast. Then you also mentioned, look, we've got some outlier data points in Germany, France, and Spain. And by the way, we're going to talk specifically in this research project about the work we did in the Raleigh-Durham Chapel Hill area in the United States. Okay, so you have all that and you're good to go. Then after I get this all done, if you've noticed, I do click on each one of these images here, and you can go right up here to the little border weight area. I dropped in this 2-point border. You could surely change that if you want. Again, if you want to shout it out a little more graphically, maybe you drop in an 8-point on there and talk about that. It's up to you. But again, these are all the ways you visually interpret your data. Okay. So again, I'm going to go up here and I'll put this back to a 2-point up here. Down here, again, this was set to a 2-point. I gotta get this one back here to a 2-point. There we go. So there you have it. It's geomapping. It's giving a nice image, and it's something you can use to make sure through some pretty simple processes as part of your research come up with a really nice presentation to kick off the methodology in your study. Actually, sometimes I use this as the start of my results. It just depends, because the methodology really is that you're going to collect zip codes to be able to create the data points. Okay. The results really are, where did the data points come from? And that might be part of this geographic representation. So that's it. Hope that helps. I hope you have a great time presenting your research. And again, make it visual, make it powerful, make it interesting, make it exciting. All right. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.